Hi, I'm Bernard Tobin. Welcome to Real Agriculture. I'm back at the Ontario Agricultural Conference, catching up again with Dr. Peter Sikkema from the University of Guelph. Peter, great to have you back on the show.
Thank you very much.
Hey, I want to talk resistance. It's been your topic for your conference presentations today. I want to look at managing multiple herbicide-resistant water hemp, a weed that's spread across this province and really has you concerned. What's the picture right now of that weed in this province?
Yeah, so multiple herbicide-resistant water hemp was first found on Walpole Island in Lambton County in 2014. And all we knew in 2015 was that there was one field in the entire province with multiple herbicide-resistant water hemp. And water hemp at that time was resistant to the group 2, 5, and 9 herbicides, or you could say it was resistant to pursuit, atrazine, and Roundup. Anyways, since then, we now have multiple herbicide-resistant water hemp from Essex County, adjacent to the Michigan border, to Glengarry County, adjacent to the Quebec border. And what's really concerning for Ontario farmers, there are biotypes that have evolved resistance to 5 different herbicide modes of action. So there's now water hemp that's resistant to the group 2, 5, 9, 14, and 27 herbicides. And if you have 5-way resistance on your farm, that probably eliminates 80% of your soybean and corn herbicides. And so that makes it a far greater challenge for Ontario farmers to manage.
What about why this is so hard to manage this weed, Peter? You talk about the weed seed bank here.
Yeah, and there's multiple reasons why water hemp is an increasing problem in the province. And so there's been a trend to reduced strip or no-till crop production. And where you have reduced tillage, it favors small-seeded broadleaf weeds like water hemp. Secondly, water hemp is a dioecious species. That simply means that you have separate male and female plants. You have wide genetic diversity, and there's the possibility, because of that wide genetic diversity, of individual plants that have evolved resistance to these herbicides. In addition to that, as you've alluded to, Bernard, water hemp has a prolonged emergence pattern in Ontario. The first water hemp comes up sometime during the month of May, and water hemp continues to come up through the entire growing season, and water hemp is still coming up during the month of October in Ontario. And finally, the reason why it's an increasing problem is it's evolved resistance to 5 different modes of action in Ontario, and it's evolved resistance to 7 different modes of action in some fields in the United States.
What's the overall strategy here, Peter? Is that 2-pass program still, what you would prescribe?
Yeah, I think if a farmer has multiple herbicide-resistant water hemp on their farm, they have to plan an effective 2-pass weed control program for their farm. And in the work that we've done, herbicides like Acuron, Integrity, soil applied in corn, and then you can come back with one of the group 27 herbicides, Post, Liberty Post, and you can get near perfect control with those 2-pass programs. Similarly in soybean, the most effective soil applied herbicide for multiple herbicide resistant water hemp control is Fierce. I will say it also has a quite narrow margin of crop safety. And so it's going to give you the best water hemp control, but in stressed environments, it can hurt the soybean crop, and a grower has to decide whether crop safety is more important or weed control. And then if you're in IP or Roundup Ready soybean, you can come back with either Blazer, Reflex, or Hurricane. If you're an Extend soybean, you could come back with one of the dicamba-based products. And if you're an E3 soybean, you can come back with Enlist 1, Enlist Duo, or Liberty.
Hey, I want to talk as well about management and the need to manage this situation. And you've got a list of sort of practices that growers should be following. You really kick it off with a diverse rotation.
Yeah, I think that farmers need to proactively plan both their crop and their weed management program 5 years into the future, and allow themselves, obviously, flexibility for when things change over that 5-year period. But I think they need to implement a diverse crop rotation on their farm. They could use tillage at strategic points in that long-term rotation. They could plant crops in narrow rows so that they outcompete the water hemp. I think the use of cover crops after winter wheat combining is another component in managing water hemp. That possibly purchasing a combine with harvest weed seed control, where there's a grinder in the combine that grinds the weed seed so that it's non-viable when it's returned to the soil. And they have to use multiple herbicide modes of action over time. Right.
Hey, I want to wrap this up with a look at some research you're doing about, we talked about that weed seed bank, that seed bank for water hemp. You've been working on how to sort of assess the seed bank and knock it back.
Yeah, and so we started the trial in 2017. We have 5 different crop rotations. So we have a continuous soybean, we have a corn soybean rotation, we have a soybean wheat rotation, we have corn soybean wheat rotation, and the most complex rotation that we're evaluating is corn soybean wheat with a cover crop planted after winter wheat combining. In addition to that, we've reduced the row width from 30-inch soybean to 15-inch row soybean. We've used 8 different herbicide modes of action, and we've included a cover crop after winter wheat combining. So when we started that trial in 2017 at the Cottam location, on a commercial farm in Ontario, this isn't done on the research station, there was 165 million water hemp seeds per acre in the soil seed bank. So that's what we started with. And after a 3 crop rotation of corn, soybean, winter wheat, we once again took soil cores to determine the number of seeds in the seed bank. And really interesting, where we grew continuous soybean and the only herbicide applied was glyphosate, the number of seeds in the seed bank increased by 31%. So that's not surprising. It's poor control, and therefore there's going to be a lot of seed returned to the soil. However, where we used the soybean wheat, the corn soybean rotation, as well as the corn soybean wheat and cover crop after winter wheat combining, the number of seeds in the seed bank was reduced by about 60%. And so that's really encouraging. And looking at it on an absolute number, at the Cottam location, by just using weed management tactics that almost every farmer in Ontario could employ without purchasing any new equipment, we reduced the number of seeds in the seed bank from 165 million seeds per acre to 30 million seeds per acre.
So there is great potential here, Peter, for to control this challenge using tillage and farming practices.
Yeah, and I'm repeating myself. I think farmers have to plan a diversified, integrated weed management program, and they need to plan their crop weed management strategy 5 years into the future. And I think if they do, not only will they be able to address the problem with water hemp, but all of the other weed species on their farm as well.
Well, Peter, some great insights. Always wonderful to have you on Real Agriculture. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you very much, Bernard.